I'm Becca Toms. I used to work here many years ago. I started off as a volunteer and then moved on to the summer program coordinator, but really felt the pull of wanting to be out in the fields and wanting to have my hands more involved in what was happening in the farm. So started working in the farm operations and became the assistant grower. Worked alongside Casey, doing the summer programs and everything like that. When I moved to Massachusetts, I actually came over here to pursue my master's in social work at Boston University. And I was just looking for some part-time work to try to help with bills. So this farm was down the road from where I was living. I also worked at Dana Hall School, and someone just mentioned the farm, so I just drove over and introduced myself. And they let me volunteer and eventually fill in some of the positions that they had open. And it really became something that grounded me and became something I was really passionate about. If I hadn't been doing this work, I wouldn't have started farming wherever my next step was. And now I'm a part owner at a farm in Connecticut. I work with Yukon Extension in Connecticut, helping other new and beginning farmers find their places in the agricultural sphere. So, being at Natick Community Organic Farm, granted, I don't know how much impact I'm having, but the fact that because I'm here, I'm now bringing some of the passion and love and knowledge of agriculture that I learned here to another state and helping influence new and beginning farmers in that state to establish agriculture there and try to strengthen it there. So even though this is such a small place, it's having an impact throughout the region in ways that it's probably hard to track. But I think that's another thing that makes Natick Community Organic Farms so invaluable is the ripples that it causes in this important industry. The land. And then in addition, the beauty and the satisfaction of being able to share that with so many youth that were coming through and seeing them just blossom into new people from before when they first started to when after a couple years they kept coming back, just completely different individuals that were more confident, were wiser, I would say, and excited about contributing to the community in so many different ways. So they didn't always decide that agriculture was something that they wanted to pursue, but I feel very confident that anyone that spent a good deal of time here at the farm went forward to contribute positively to their community in some really unique ways and valuable ways. I think the challenge is always education. It's always the gift, but it's always a challenge because this is a working farm, so there's dirt. There's complex relationships with animals. There's complex relationships with people because it's hard work on your body. So integrating the public into everything that happens here is such a huge gift to the community. But, also I recognize that sometimes made it more challenging. Like when you are trying to get a field of lettuce heads harvested and you have a team of 12-year-olds helping you, it's not going to be as efficient or smooth necessarily as a crew of adults helping you. So, it always makes things a little bit more complicated, but that doesn't mean that it's any less important or any less rewarding and worth it. So I think that's the constant balance that NCOF is walking on, is how to continue to incorporate that education and still be a functioning farm that is a model for other farms in the region to look to for best farm practices. I think one of the most important things that the Natick farm contributes is that it gives people an understanding of what does agriculture actually mean. A lot of the food that we consume does come from huge big box farms that are far away, and folks lose that connection with their food. And when that happens, they lose some of their health. They lose some appreciation for the labor that goes into it. And it kind of sterilizes a part of our lives that is really essential to our existence, which is food. You know, we all need it. So I think that's one really huge component, is getting people to a working farm and seeing this is what it actually means to produce quality food that is kind to the environment, that actually can help the environment instead of harm it, and also make your life more joyful. Ever since I have seen Natick Community Farm, there's a vein of compassion that has always been present here. And I think teaching people compassion, whether it's through teaching a child how to compassionately hold a rabbit that might be scared of them, and how to be in that place with an animal and learn to be kind. I think we need more of those spaces in our lives as our world becomes a little bit more crazy, to remember we need to be compassionate to each other. We need to practice compassion even when it's hard. I can remember you may have heard this story before, but we had a goat on the farm called Eddie, who was a little bit violent and not the one that you would want to be around, one of the animals. And it's relatively easy to be compassionate to a lot of the animals, but sometimes you just didn't want to have Eddie be around. So it was a constant lesson for us that worked here, not just the public, of like, okay, this is an animal that's just acting out their normal behaviors, and I need to learn and remember not to get angry, not to get vengeful at this smelly, angry goat, but to just try to approach this animal with compassion, because they are just living their lives. So that, I think, is a perfect example of how we need to treat each other. And yeah, we need more, again, we need more spaces like that in our lives to remind us to be compassionate and leave space for what people are just expressing from the environment that they are coming from. Linda for always pushing me and challenging me and having faith in me to kind of stretch my knowledge and my abilities. And I would not be doing many of the things that I do today if it hadn't been for her. Trish was somebody that was so integral. I'm getting a little teary-eyed. Sorry. for some of the transitions that I was going through in my life, having a constant compassion that came from her, that didn't need any stories or background. It was just, come here and be hugged. Come here and be accepted. Casey, obviously, is a big influence. I was already here when Casey started, and I'm so grateful that I got to be here at the beginning of his tenure, because he's turned into one of my closest friends. And, having that friendship makes me feel more empowered in the work that I'm doing. I'm still in farming, and I know that I have a friend that I can constantly call on for any part of agriculture, because it's hard work.
Yeah.
So I have a steadfast friend that I'm not going to lose no matter where I go. So really invaluable, the relationships that I've built here. Oh my gosh, the teens that I've gotten to work with, they're another component. Just the joy that I get from knowing these folks and being able to be part of their lives as they grew and blossomed into amazing human beings. Like, what a privilege. And that in and of itself is a really valuable component that is part of what builds me as well, is being able to participate in these moments in people's lives. So, yeah, it's not, again, any one person out of all of those youth that I worked with, but so many of them collectively coming together and growing into these amazing human beings that I'm so proud to see go out into the world and do what they do. My hope for the Natick Community Organic Farm for the next 50 years is that it doesn't change much, is that it holds that compassion, that steadfastness to education, the openness, and also that it stays the size that it is. I think the temptation with organizations is that if something is succeeding, it grows and becomes bigger, and I don't necessarily think that's necessary. I think the fact that this is a smallish, can be intimate space provides what people need in order to have those experiences that are very tactile and memorable. So I hope that a lot of things stay the same, and that, the soil becomes richer, the ecology becomes more diverse, the forest becomes more established and has more little toddlers running around learning to explore it, and that people keep coming